Welcome, everyone, to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me as always. I am very much looking forward to this conversation today. I have a dear friend, an old friend. With me today. Lindsay Hindle is not only an amazing human, truly, but she is also what she calls a business activator. And this is really cool because we're going to talk about exploring our authentic selves within conscious business and really how that wraps into the evolution of who we are as a being when we're living that authentic being. And so as a business activator, she holds a complementary role to a business strategist, and she works a lot with women in helping them own their authentic authority and their presence, their identity, their energy, and infusing these strategies into business and how they show up in the world, which of course will expand into how they show up as themselves. And I mean, how we bring energy and spirit into the ways that we are doing business nowadays is just so on par with the new frequency that we are stepping into. So, all to say, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. This is so awesome to be here with you and get to talk about this aspect of my work.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dive in because we can go in so many different directions.
Yeah.
But let's start off with okay, so we're talking about exploring the authentic self within conscious business practices or how we show up in ourselves. And so that's taking like a very linear business old school linear business approach and blending it into new school. So first of all, how did you come upon this whole idea of being like a business activator versus a business strategist?
Yeah, well, that goes back to when I started my first business several years ago, because the business that I'm in today, where I operate as a business activator under my umbrella of 5 sites, is not where I initially started out as an entrepreneur. And like a lot of women and a lot of mothers out there who suddenly find themselves questioning their priorities and want to spend more time with their kids and not do the whole big city commuting 2 hours a day in the car plus the work hours, my entry into the world of entrepreneurship, which is a huge shift, right? Huge mental shift. Happened to be under starting my very first business, which was just basically taking what I had done in my career as a communications and PR consultant and branding, organizational branding expert, just directly into my own independent branding consultancy, working with other entrepreneurs on their brand identities and how they were communicating their newsletters, their e-newsletters, back when we called them e-newsletters back in the day. And it was a partially good fit for me. And what was interesting was how I was really finding myself in this new position of entrepreneur and working with other entrepreneurs and going into these deep, deep processes of branding to figure out who they wanted to be, what kind of company, what kind of mission, what kind of values they held, who did they really want to be out there as their business. And some of my clients really did well through the processes that I brought them through, because branding is far more than a logo. It's far more than just imagery and what you put on your website. It really is getting into those deeper questions of, how are you connecting with the rest of the world and your soulmate clients? Some of my clients did really well in those processes, and others literally almost broke down. I had clients in tears sometimes because they couldn't answer the questions that I was asking them. And it was shocking to them that they couldn't answer them, because they were like, this should be so easy. I should know what I'm about. I should know what I stand for. I should know all these things. And it really kind of shocked them that, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not ready to become a business because I don't know these questions, which means ultimately I don't know myself. So watching people struggle in that way was really fascinating. It was really unnerving to me in a lot of ways, because I was still very much going through my own identity development, which a lot of women go through after they have kids. All of a sudden, you're just like in this huge identity exploration. So it was thematic. It was speaking a lot to me, and at that point, it was where I decided that I was going to step away from that business. I was going to shut that business down to take some time to explore my fascination, my curiosity about why people were having trouble, and also myself more and what I was really truly passionate about, because I started to recognize I was doing something I was interested in, but I wasn't interested in the graphics. I wasn't interested in the websites, actually. I wasn't interested in writing people's newsletters for them. What I was interested in was this personal identity element.
Mhm.
And I wanted to dive deeper into that. So I closed my first business and then went on a really interesting route, like really interesting journey um, to kind of investigate all aspects of that.
That's amazing. And there's a real common theme in that too that I hear from a lot of people, myself included, of like, we go to university, we go to college, we go to whatever kind of next step education, and we create a plan of what it's going to be. It's a linear plan. I'm going to do this. And then life comes in. And if we listen to those whispers, it starts to lead us in like a more unique direction. And sometimes that direction, like you're saying, can be this whole roundabout thing to come back to what we really actually want to do with more clarity. But I think sometimes when we're on that journey of that big roundabout, we're like, what the heck am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
which direction am I going? And I imagine you came across that, right? Like moments where you were like, I thought I was closer to knowing what I'm about, but now I feel even farther from. Did you experience
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, you phrased that perfectly. That's exactly how I felt. And I would weave in and out of that as I was exploring different elements and trying to understand what I was about. And also just following, like you said, following those whispers. I decided that I wouldn't follow a plan anymore. All I was going to follow was where my excitement and my passion was leading me. And it did lead me into avenues that I would never have thought I would get into, and even had family members almost literally sit me down with an intervention attitude and go, "What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your degree? You're a beautiful woman and you're going in this direction when you could be climbing corporate using your,
Mhm.
your beauty and your intelligence to like climb the ladder." And I was like, oh, that feels so wrong. So it was really quite an interesting journey that way, to stick to this complete unknown of following myself and my intuitive guidance, when I really had no idea where it would lead me. But it led me into discovering the power of the body, somatics, which is very
Mm.
huge part of my work today.
Huge. I think it's huge for so many people now. Like, I think somatics is one of the main transformative outlets or methodologies right now, given the current energy.
Absolutely. It is incredible field to be in and to study and to use in your personal life in every avenue. So yeah, it brought me closer to somatics, and it brought me on a spiritual journey, really opening up this aspect of myself that had shut down, because I was raised in a religion. And when I left that religion, because it was just felt wrong to me, I didn't know what else existed to be a spiritual person. So I ended up acting as a chaplain for 7 years. A chaplain being a person that facilitates rites of passage, memorials, burials, attending graveside services, as well as marrying people, joining people in union, some conscious dissolutions of marriage as well. I got to facilitate, which is fantastic. And then baby naming ceremonies, which is not it's not a Christian blessing. It's literally couple is choosing a very specific name for their child. It's ancestral, it's hereditary, and they wanted to really involve the family in honoring the whole family
Mm.
system that way. So some really unique experiences.
That's so interesting. Again, like such a journey around to getting back to where you are now. So, what would you say? I mean, I can imagine there's many, but what was one significant indicator for you when you were honing in on what you do now, where like you knew you were getting closer? Was it like, did you have a certain spiritual awakening or a life dark night of the soul or something? Like, what was there a turning point piece that, made that roundabout curve back into where you are?
I think picking up all the pieces of accessing these different powers these centers of genius within. So the body and then the spirit, and pairing that with the mind, doing a lot of emotional processing work, and learning the great value and wisdom that is in our emotions. And then through my work as a chaplain, really understanding oneness and interconnection, and how we really are one entire web of existence, including the mystery. The mystery
Mm.
all around us is part of our existence and interconnected web. And so finally having those 5 appreciations, I decided to start a company, a coaching company called 5 Sites, which brought those values as pillars into how I would conduct myself in my work, how I wanted to bring any of my coaching clients into a deeper sense of working and embodying and using the power, accessing the power from those 5 geniuses, as I call them.
Hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing. And so you bring in those, you continue to use those strategies now with clients and stuff, right?
Yes, and it's really evolved too over the years. You know, we can here's the beautiful thing about business as a container and a vessel for not just money making, right? It really can be a pivotal way that you develop yourself and develop your spirit and explore things about yourself and the world and connection with spirit. And we can start any number of businesses that we want. I mean, I've started 3 or 4 in my lifetime, and the one that I'm in, even when I began it, because this is what brands and identities do, they do not stay the same, they evolve. And so even the work that I was doing early on in 5 Sites has evolved. It's continue to evolve as I have evolved. And that's a parallel, a joint co-partnership of co-creation that I really love to help people understand, is that this business entity that you create, it is a part of you, and yet it's not you. And yet it is this co-creative partner where it can give you wisdom back, as long as you're willing to be open to that wisdom and remove kind of any kind of ego that would come up and say, oh, like, oh, you've made this mistake and this has gone wrong and blah, blah, blah. And really look at it like a separate but joined entity to you. And then
Hmm.
you develop a relationship with your business that is co-creative and supportive of you developing as a person and as a soul here, and your business developing as a movement, if that's what you want it to be, as a place of healing, if that's what you're into, or as a place of helping in the world, and that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And I love how you described it like that because, as you're talking, I'm reflecting on Avalon Spirit and I'm like, it's so true. Like, yes, I helped to co-create Avalon Spirit, but yet the amount I have been learning from that and morphing and evolving and like thinking of the things that we're getting into now and creating now, it's just like, it is this consistent evolution of the business. And you're right, it is an aspect of like your heart and soul, but it also is its own unique energy that then can reflect back. And I've never actually looked at it that way. I can recognize the energy exchange, but I never looked at it as like a teacher also. And
Mm.
that's so neat, like such a neat thing. And I want to say what I really like too is how you're emphasizing this evolution, because I think sometimes, I know I was like this too. I felt like in starting a business, I need to know what it's about, how it's structured, what it's going to be, and story.
Yeah.
Right. And then if I evolve from that, I remember in the beginning, I would be like, no, like this is what we do. And like I can't change it because it's what it is. But it's like, you're right. All businesses need to evolve and grow. Like that's just what happens. And so why not celebrate and, create ceremony or ritual or celebration around those points of evolution where it begins to change and become something more different.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where my work really is these days, in that exact particular growth ground, I call it growth ground, of working with women entrepreneurs who are in their 3rd+ years of business. 3 to 5 years in business is a really unique point in time, a growth ground that opens up, that doesn't open up at really any other time. It's so unique. And I love to work with women who are in their third, between 3+ to 5, 6 years of business because of exactly this. You have learned strategies. You've been the intelligent, responsible businesswoman who has gone and learned how to operate a profitable business, learned the strategies, got the coaching, you've got the channels going, and you've got your ideas, you've got a plan, and then you start to enact that plan. And this learning and evolution starts to evolve. And all of a sudden, you are changing. Again, your identity is changing as you step into the sacred CEO shoes. And then around 3rd year, you notice, okay, you know what? The things that I've tried maybe need to shift. Or, hey, you know what? I discovered something new about who I want to work with. And I don't really want to work with those clients I set out to at the beginning. Or I actually have this innovative idea of how I want to change this methodology that I trained in. I want to put my unique spin on it. And it's at this point where women are very excited about the potential of bringing more of their authentic self, their unique ideas, their imagination, their spiritual growth into their business. And also, it's the most vulnerable moment. And it's this polarity of excitement with total vulnerability that you don't expect, you do not anticipate, to suddenly feel even more vulnerable than you did when you started your business. And this is where I really hold the space for women to start exploring and engaging their deepest core authentic self and bringing those polarities and those healing together so that they can then step into their business with true authority behind all these innovations that they want to bring and changes they want to bring into their business from that solid place within.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And one of them is when, for me, specifically when Spirit started asking me to channel and bring in more of the channelings. And I remember I'm like, but I do mediumship. And they're like, and you do channeling. I'm like, I know, but like, that's where people think it's weird or whatever. And Spirit was like, you need to honor the authentic self. So I remember that stage in agreeing to step up and be like, all right, I will bring this into what I do. And I'm at now another stage of that I've been like working on. And I mean, I've got my sound bowls behind me here, but bringing in sound and song. Again, I used to sing way back in the day, and then I just shut it down, right? And it's coming back, and I'm honoring that. And I recognize it is yet another phase of that like vulnerability, but something new. And it's about embracing it. And so speaking of sound and song and voice and everything, you've had a pivotal shift with sound and voice as well, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah. That was a side of myself that I mean, both of us, we grew up in choirs, we grew up singing. You had a huge career in singing early on when you were younger, and it was so amazing to watch that. And so sound and singing is very important to me, always has been. And something interesting started to happen in my personal life. So this is outside of my business, where I was engaging and working within some song circles. So I started going to song circles with this fantastic woman named Julie Blue, who has actually been a pianist on some of my recordings. And she helped me produce those songs that came later. But it began to open up again. And I wanted to bring that into my business because I could feel and see the impact of me sharing some of my songs or sound medicine that would just intuitively come through me and just want to be sung to an individual in that song circle. Like I'd pull them off to the side and be like, hey, like this weird thing happened to me last night, 3 a.m. I just started singing this song. It just came through and it felt like a message for you. So like, can I sing it to you? And And then the response from that, from being brave to just share that weird thing that was happening, gave me the courage and affirmation that, yes, this was something important that I did want to bring into my business as a tool to help women explore this identity piece, because how we're showing up in the world, it's so interconnected with our sense of self, but then also our throat chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us have a lot of either deficiencies or excessiveness going on in our throat chakra. And so melding coaching work, like business coaching, with sound medicine has been a journey that started about 2 or 3 years ago and is continuing again to evolve. It's shifted and changed, but I bring it in as a tool for helping test responses. So if I take someone on a sound journey, right, we're talking about an entrepreneur, like something you wouldn't think would go together, but taking someone on a sound journey and then seeing their responses to that, or engaging them in their own voice work where I'm having them sing. So lots of voice activation stuff. Testing and seeing their responses. What happens when someone hears a certain song or sings something and all of a sudden they're crying? Why?
Mm-hmm.
What's there for us to investigate that is an indicator, a piece of wisdom that when we work with it and integrate it, then becomes a power that they use in their business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you are so comfortable in this aspect now, because I've had spirit coming up a lot the last little while talking about the soul song and soul frequency and sound frequency, and getting in tune with our voices again. And whether that is through like humming or mantra or song, but to dive into the exploration of sound as well, to bring out the energy of the soul song, the resonance of self and all of that. So I think it's so neat. I'm getting it from my direction, but you're implementing it already from your direction in business practices. And whenever those kind of things meet and converge, to me, that's a big indicator that there's a huge shift going on collectively within the understandings of sound and sound frequencies, and how frequencies can alter our body structure, our emotional energy patterns, and all of that. What have you noticed with sound and people? Like I know you said you've had a couple of people cry where, it's this soul release, but what are you noticing in like tones and sounds? What's coming through with that for you?
Yeah, there are really interesting things that happen when, for example, I am having someone vocalize just a sound, just do toning work. Or they're listening to me and a recording of mine where I have recorded. This is funny. I actually do a lot of recordings in the bathtub. Um,
Good sound. It's really good acoustics in there too.
it's really great acoustics,
Yeah.
and it stimulates responses in the mental level, the emotional level, the spiritual level, and the physical level. And so what I notice is people really being able to create space, which is a huge part of sound, is just the space to slow down. When I'm getting them to say, hey, implement a practice of like, I want you to tone every day. This is your homework. This is your coaching homework.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The space that they take for themselves is huge to get quiet, but then also to activate the energy and the frequency, and that energy of that frequency running through their body. And I really get them to notice, okay, how are you feeling? Let this frequency that you're toning go right through the bottom of your tailbone into the ground. Allow yourself to feel it go all the way up through your throat, through the back of your head, out of the top of the head. And even that simple practice has people develop a relationship with the energetic component of themselves and that power, that simple power. And I think that because toning and singing and sound medicine actually is so simple, and it's so powerful because of how uncomplicated it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no words. When we remove words, which carry baggage and meaning and different understandings for each individual, and we just go straight to pure sound as a tool for energetic exploration and spiritual exploration, people find the wisdom coming up from within in a completely different way than I could ever say, give someone advice. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You literally said what my guides had said to me too. The exact same thing. Take the words out of it. It's not the
Yeah.
word. Listen to the sound. The
Yeah.
sound. So I love that. That makes absolute sense. And I agree. Like, and that's what allows it to be so unique to each person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's totally customized,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, a lot of people find so refreshing this day in the business culture that we're in. We have a lot of push of follow my template, follow my foolproof system, follow this, follow blah, blah, what worked for me. And over the last 2 years, a significant amount of women and businesses have found, hey, you know what? Just trying to copy and paste someone else's template and way of doing things actually doesn't work. And
Mm-hmm.
then they feel lost, but that's where we get to connect them to their intuitive wisdom, their deepest source of wisdom, which is in them, get them to listen to it, make space for it, trust it,
Mm-hmm.
follow it. And
Yeah,
sound, because of its purity, is a huge component of that.
absolutely. That's just so on point. It's so on point, and I'm so excited to hear everything that you're saying about it because it just resonates deeply, deeply. So, gosh, there's so many things we could talk about and tangent on. But I really want to make sure that everybody can figure out and, know how to connect with you and also what kind of things you're offering. So, first of all, how can people work with you?
Well, I have two ways that are really, really powerful for women that are in their third plus or more years of business to connect with me if they're feeling that resonance of like, oh yeah, I'm kind of wanting to step into my authority. And um two programs that I offer, which are quite customized in, even though they're set as a program, they're kind of templates. One is called Emotional Power. And this is where I take somebody through 6 weeks of really getting into connecting with their emotions as a source of wisdom and power. And this is a really important piece for anybody who wants to activate more of their intuition, who wants to stand in their authority, really stand behind their work, stand behind themselves as an expert, behind themselves as an influencer, because you cannot stand in your authority, in presence, in full energetic force when you are discarding your emotions, when you are ashamed of your emotional power, ashamed of how strong your emotions are, especially if you're a sensitive being. This is an imprint that a lot of empaths and highly sensitive people carry, and healing that relationship to engage your emotions as a source of power instead of a weakness is a huge, huge thing to stand in your authority. So I've taken a lot of people through that program. It's been absolutely transformative for them, and it builds forward into the Own Your Worth program. Own Your Worth is where I help people really engage, again, deeper ownership of that authority. And both of these programs feature songs that I have recorded that people work with as tools to open these different aspects of themselves that get to be opened and repaired in relationships so they can bring them online as power into their business. So those are two ways that clients can work with me.
Amazing. And where can people find you? Where can they contact you?
You can look me up on my website, which is fivesites.com. So that's spelled spelled out as the number 5, FIVE, and then sights as in seeing, SIGHTS, so 5sights.com. I'm also posting a lot of stuff on Instagram. I've started posting more song medicine, just directly in the moment channeled kind of songs on there, which I'm looking forward to, producing more of those, because that's coming online a lot for me these days, is just in the moment,
Amazing.
like you said, song channeling. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing. I will be sure to put these in the links below. So anyone listening or watching, you can find the information in the links below in the description box. Now, before we bring this to a close for now, is there anything you want to leave people with? Like based on everything that you've learned in your experience at this moment for where the world is transforming, what would you like to leave people with? Either a thought, a mantra, a question. What would you like to leave with people?
I think what's very present for me right now, which I've been, communicating with my own sources on guides and speaking with people, is there's a real shift right now. There are 4 shifts that are basically pushing humanity into a completely new era. And we need leaders who are able to respond to this era and really bring these different frequencies through. Each person has the ability to bring through a very unique frequency and play a very unique role that they are meant to serve at this time in humanity. And it's not simply what you do, right? It's not simply what you do as a business. Yes, you can be helping. Yes, you can be healing. Yes, you can be influencing or coaching or teaching. It's not just what you do. It's also the frequency that you're operating on and bringing through you in that work that matters. And this is not about, manifestation of law of attraction type of idea where, oh, you have to be in this high vibe frequency in order to attract money or in order to grow your business, blah, blah, blah. It's not that. It's something very different where there are certain frequencies that are needed on this planet, needed to be transmitted on this planet at this time. And you operating and even enjoying being in that frequency. It's also your joy that matters, because we can be in a business, be helping, and actually kind of be a little bit miserable, right? If we're really being honest with ourselves,
Absolutely.
your business can become a heavy burden or can be, something that, yes, you're helping others, but you're doing it at a cost, great personal cost to yourself. And at that point, that's not the point. The point isn't just to help others so others can be in this high energetic frequency. It's like your joy, your delight in yourself and what you are feeling and transmitting onto this planet is also the point.
Yes, that's amazing. That's a mic drop moment right there. You nailed it. I love it. All right. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for your passion, your immense amount of information, how articulately you were able to, describe it and bring us into your view of the world. I just think it's so wonderful and captivating. So thank you so much. I really encourage everyone to check out Lindsay's work, and I hope to have you back on the show again.
Thank you so much, Ginette. You bringing yourself to the world and all of your gifts has been so fantastic for me as well. It's really helped me a lot in my life and continues to every day. So I thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for the work and the space that you hold.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us, and I will see you all next week.